The lobby of the glass tower was alive with motion, yet strangely silent in meaning. Shoes clicked against marble floors, elevators hummed softly, assistants spoke in low, efficient tones, and screens flashed numbers that represented profits, losses, and futures that seemed more important than anything else in the world. At the center of it all stood Adrian Hale, CEO of Hale Industries, a man whose presence alone seemed to command gravity. He was tall, immaculately dressed, and carried the kind of calm confidence that only came from years of winning, battles others never even dared to fight. To the world, he was power in human form. To himself, he was simply tired. Adrian had just stepped out of a tense board meeting, his mind still replaying projections and negotiations, when he felt something unusual, a pause in the air. It was subtle, like the moment before rain begins to fall. He looked down, adjusting his cufflinks, already preparing to move toward the waiting elevator, when a small voice broke through the mechanical rhythm of the building. "Sir, my mom isn't waking up." The words were barely louder than a breath. Adrian stopped mid-step. His body froze before his mind could catch up. He looked around, confused, certain that such a sentence didn't belong in this place of steel and strategy. Then he looked down. A little girl stood a few feet away from him. She couldn't have been more than 7 years old. Her clothes were clean but worn, her shoes slightly too big, as if they had been handed down more than once. She clutched a faded backpack tightly to her chest, knuckles pale from gripping it so hard. Her hair was tied into uneven pigtails, and her eyes, those eyes, and were filled with something Adrian hadn't seen in years. Fear, yes, but beneath it, a fragile kind of hope that had no reason to exist and yet refused to disappear. People passed by them without stopping. Some glanced briefly, others didn't look at all. Security guards hesitated, unsure whether to intervene or ignore the interruption. Adrian didn't notice any of them. All he could hear was the echo of that whisper repeating itself inside his chest. "My mom isn't waking up." He crouched slowly so he was at eye level with her, the sharp crease of his expensive suit folding without his permission. "What's your name?" he asked gently, surprising even himself with how steady his voice sounded. "Lily," she replied. Her lower lip trembled, but she didn't cry. I tried shaking her. I talked to her. She didn't open her eyes. Adrian swallowed. He had faced hostile takeovers, ruthless competitors, and moments where billions were on the line. None of that prepared him for this. "Where's your mom, Lily?" The girl hesitated for only a second before pointing toward the revolving doors. "At home." I didn't know who else to ask. Something cracked inside him, a soundless fracture invisible to everyone else. He stood up, turning toward his assistant who had been hovering nervously nearby. "Cancel everything," Adrian said firmly. "All meetings. All calls." The assistant blinked. "Sir, the overseas conference—" "Can wait," Adrian interrupted, his eyes never leaving the child. "This can't." He turned back to Lily and knelt again. "Take me to her." Lily's eyes widened as if she hadn't expected anyone to actually say yes. She nodded quickly, fear and relief tangling together on her small face. Adrian held out his hand. After a brief moment of hesitation, she placed her tiny fingers into his. They left the building together, a little girl and a man the world believed had no time for anything that didn't generate profit. Outside, the city roared with life. Adrian hailed a car, gently lifting Lily inside before getting in beside her. As the vehicle pulled away, he noticed how tightly she leaned against the door, as if bracing herself for something worse than fear, disappointment. He placed his jacket over her shoulders without thinking. She looked down at it, then up at him. "Thank you," she whispered. Adrian nodded, unable to speak. Somewhere deep inside, a memory stirred, a woman's voice, warm and tired, telling him once upon a time that kindness mattered more than success. He had buried that memory under years of ambition. Now it was clawing its way back to the surface. The car stopped in front of an aging apartment building, its paint chipped and stairs cracked with time. Adrian followed Lily up 3 flights of narrow stairs, each step heavier than the last. When she opened the door to their small apartment, a quiet stillness filled the air, the kind that made the heart race. Lily ran ahead. "Mom?" she called softly. Adrian followed her into the bedroom. And there she was. A woman lay on the bed, her face pale, her breathing shallow but present. Adrian's instincts kicked in immediately. He checked her pulse, her breathing, the temperature of her skin. Relief and urgency collided inside him. She was alive, but she needed help. He pulled out his phone and called emergency services, giving clear, calm instructions. Lily stood frozen by the doorway, watching every move. "She's going to be okay," Adrian said, meeting Lily's eyes. "We're getting help." For the first time, Lily cried, silent tears streaming down her cheeks as she nodded. Adrian stayed right there, holding her hand until the sirens arrived. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and quiet urgency. Machines beeped softly, nurses moved with purpose, and time seemed to stretch unnaturally. Lily sat beside Adrian in the waiting area, her feet swinging just above the floor. She hadn't let go of his hand since the ambulance doors closed behind them. Doctors came and went, offering careful words and measured reassurance. Lily's mother, her name was Emma, had collapsed from exhaustion and untreated illness. She had been working long hours, skipping meals, ignoring her own health so her daughter could have enough. The truth settled heavily in Adrian's chest. Hours passed. Adrian ordered food for Lily when he realized she hadn't eaten. He listened as she spoke about school, about how her mom always read to her at night even when she was tired. Every word chipped away at the walls Adrian had built around himself. Finally, a doctor approached them with a gentle smile. "She's stable," he said. "She'll recover." Lily exhaled shakily, then threw her arms around Adrian without warning. He stiffened for half a second, then wrapped his arms around her, holding her carefully as if she were something precious he had just discovered. When Emma woke later that night, confused and weak, Adrian was there. He explained everything simply, kindly. Tears filled her eyes as she looked at her daughter. "You went to a stranger?" she whispered. Lily shook her head. "No, I went to him." Something in Adrian's chest tightened painfully. Over the next days, Adrian visited the hospital more than he visited his office. He arranged medical support, groceries, childcare help, all quietly, without press releases or recognition. But more than that, he listened. He learned who Emma was, how hard she had tried, how close she had come to breaking without ever admitting it, and in doing so, he remembered who he once wanted to be. Weeks later, the apartment looked brighter. Emma was healthier, stronger. Lily laughed more freely now, her fear replaced with trust. Adrian visited often, though he never announced himself. To Lily, he wasn't a CEO. He was just Adrian. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the city, Lily looked up at him and said, "You didn't have to help us." Adrian smiled softly. "I know." "Then why did you?" He thought for a long moment. "Because once, a long time ago, someone helped me when I didn't know who else to ask." Emma watched them from the doorway, understanding without words. Adrian still ran a powerful company. The world still saw him as untouchable. But something fundamental had changed. He funded programs quietly. He showed up where no cameras waited. He listened. And sometimes, late at night, he thought back to a whisper in a crowded lobby, a small voice that reminded him that the greatest decisions aren't made in boardrooms. They're made when someone asks for help, and you choose to stop.